Okay, I wanted to give you an update that we got from Georgia Monday afternoon, just after 4 o'clock. That Carson Beck has suffered an elbow injury during Saturday's SEC championship game. Carson and his family are exploring treatment options, and there is no current timetable for Carson's return. On top of that, we have an update on Brett Thorson, who has played his final snap this season. So Brett is going to miss the college football playoff for Georgia, and that means you're going to have a new punter, and this is a weapon. Two weapons now Georgia will not have moving forward in the college football playoff. So it's a tough day for Georgia. Here's the rest of the release. Putter Brett Thorson sustained a knee injury from his non-kicking leg in Saturday's contest and will require season-ending surgery. And here's a quote from Kirby saying, "Carson and Brett are both fierce competitors and extremely hard workers. I'm confident they will attack their rehab with the same determination and they exhibit it in their daily habits. We will be here to support them every step of the way." So there's been a lot of, so there's been I saw WSB in Atlanta with reporting from Zach Klein about it. We just couldn't get there on our end of things. And that's not disputing a report. I'm just saying, we're going to report what we're feeling comfortable reporting. We couldn't go there at the time. Here's Georgia now saying it's important to realize what Georgia's saying and what they're not saying. They are not saying that Carson Beck suffered a, quote, season-ending injury. So it's very important in the world that we live in, and for those of us who are actual reporters and not people in basements, to explain to our audiences what it means. It may mean that Carson has played his last down at Georgia. That's not what this statement is saying. The statement is very serious, very obviously saying Carson suffered an elbow injury. That's all they're calling it. They're not describing what the injury is, okay? They're saying suffered an elbow injury. He and his family are exploring treatment options. There is no current timetable on his return. Let me give you the timetable of the college football playoff, because I think that's an important thing to remember here as we get to this part of the season. I mean, Georgia's odds to win the national championship have fallen since this happened, but they've fallen from tied for first to third, and they've not fallen by a substantial amount. So we don't know yet what this means in terms of the rest of the way, quite frankly. I mean, there's no way to be certain that we know if Carson will play again at Georgia. My hope is he will, just because of covering him through the years, and wanting guys to play who are working to play. But as it relates to this schedule, and I don't know why the college football playoff schedule isn't easy to get on their site, but maybe it is. I'm not sure. I don't see it quickly. So Georgia will play the last game in the quarterfinal round. They're going to play the final game. That is exactly, today's the 9th. That game's on the 1st. There's 31 days, so 32 less 9. I went to school in DeKalb County. 23. So that's 2 weeks and a little bit. 3 weeks and a little bit. So it's been about, they had about a 3.5 week stretch period for Carson to get better. When is the game after that? Well, we know now what we didn't know when I was talking beforehand. We know Georgia will play in the Orange Bowl. So that is 8 days after the Sugar Bowl. Well, the Sugar Bowl is on the 1st. You're not really getting back home until probably 4 o'clock in the morning on the 2nd, okay? I've done the Sugar Bowl. I know how this goes. It's an extremely late game. It is what it is. It's a great game, but it's a late game. So you're not kicking until 8:45 Eastern. So they can push it to 9, okay? They can roll it until 9. So in theory, you're not going to get back. I mean, in theory, you're not going to be done with the game until midnight, first of all. Best case scenario is midnight. And then after that, your best case scenario is you pack everything and you're back in Athens at 3:30 on the 2nd. So you lose the 2nd, but pretty much. So it will be a week turnaround. So to ask Carson to be ready for the Orange Bowl, just me talking, not knowing everything, if it's not a season-ending injury, I would imagine the Orange Bowl is in the realm of universe for now. Let me add this caveat, however. If you're exploring treatment options, that means to me, treatment options does not mean surgery. Okay? So what is Tommy John's surgery? What is Tommy John's? Tommy John was a very successful baseball pitcher. Well, very successful. He was particularly successful after he got surgery that was named for him in the early 70s, and it became sort of part of life in baseball. Well, Tommy John's surgery, you're out. You're out for months. And it's sort of an accepted thing in Major League Baseball. In college football, Georgia doesn't have months. But again, the statement, I can't put it on the screen on TikTok. I'm sorry. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Make sure you're checking out Red Zone in Athens. I don't have the ability to do certain things on my phone that I do on the computer. But the statement reads, he and his family are exploring treatment options. There is no current timetable on his return. They can't possibly know when his return would be. The difference between Carson's and Brett Thorson's statement is pretty simple, okay? And that is this. Brett Thorson sustained a knee injury to his non-kicking leg on Saturday's contest and will require season-ending injury. What they're not saying about Carson is will require season-ending surgery, will require surgery. So let me give you a little even bit more background on this because I've been around the block for a little bit of time. When Brock Bowers last year was hurt at Vanderbilt, I can tell you now on background, the Bowers family wanted the news out. They didn't want to be bombarded by, reporters, which I understand. They wanted to make clear that that Brock was hurt and he would have surgery. He had the tightrope surgery. It was hard for him to get back but he did. He wasn't the Brock Bowers we were used to. But I add that to say, we knew then that he was having surgery. They told us he was having surgery. So if you're looking for sort of a glimmer of hope that Carson Beck will play again, I would say, and I'm not suggesting one way or the other what will happen. I don't know. But the national championship game, which Georgia certainly can get to, is It's 42 days from today. That's 42 days from today. All right. Now, that is 6 weeks from today. Literally 6 weeks. So you're pushing it, I guess. But there's a lot to remember here with Carson Beck. He is the last quarterback at Georgia to take a snap. Oh, that's a fact. I'm getting some stuff here. I'm getting everything all at once here. Yeah. So the statement is telling you all you need to know about where we are at in all of this. It's not definitive. Brett Thorson is in a definitive situation. Brett Thorson, a key weapon for Georgia, will not be playing for Georgia this season. That's not what this says about Carson Beck. What it also doesn't say is he's out for the Sugar Bowl. It also doesn't declare that he's in for the Sugar Bowl. It is only saying what it's saying, and that's it. It's important. It's important, folks, remember that it's, Georgia is the definitive source on this. This is Carson Beck's family, and through Ron Corson and Kirby and everybody at Georgia. That's what's going on right now. All right. This is not about, and I'm not saying anyone is guessing or whatever. I'm just saying if you see it out there, I would view everything with skepticism right now that assumes anything about Carson Beck. Okay, we don't know. It looks like he's not going to have surgery, and if you're not having surgery, well, let me put it to you this way: Tommy John's surgery is surgery. And it also means that you're out. Well, that's not being discussed in this statement. So, it was quite obvious that Carson was hurt on Saturday. I was on. So all I can talk about is where I was at. So I was at the field. I was at the end zone facing Georgia. For those of you who don't know, I'm a photographer. I've covered Georgia for 24 years. This will be the 25th year coming up. Through all of the ups and downs of the last 24 years, I'm a photographer. I'm on the field. I have perspective that the people in the press box don't, and they have perspective that I don't get from up top. I was on the field. The people behind me were the Dr. Pepper people. They were ready to storm onto the field. They told us when it hits 000, we're coming onto the field. I said, well, we're not going to be here, so it doesn't matter. Well, we were there. Everybody was in a standstill because Carson Beck on the last play of the first half, you could see the way his arm was bent and so forth. It was not a lot of fun. As a person who played basketball with my right hand and tennis with my right hand, your elbow and shoulder in quarterbacks, you gotta be careful with that stuff. And there was nothing about that. You don't even have to play sports to anything to know how bad that was for Carson. So there he was laying on the ground, and I, of course, was shooting the play. And the bad part was, and I'll put it on the screen on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, and you can see everything that we got. I'm going to put it on the. So by the way, there's a sweater that you can get from our buddies at Red Zone that's on the screen. Hunker down the chimney during Christmas. Here's the shot of Carson. I'll put it on the big screen. There he is, laying on his left shoulder, holding above his right elbow with his left hand. And then, soon thereafter, and this is well after the play, because I was getting ready to leave. I was only anticipating a Hail Mary right at me. That was it. I had a different camera that I was using at that moment. I did not use my 500 millimeter. I was using a shorter camera because I thought it would be coming to the end zone. I never did. It went to the other side of the field, as you recall. So Georgia had to help him off the field. It was a tough scene, and it did not look like he was coming back after seeing those replays. Okay, I thought he had hurt his leg at first. Well, you fast forward, and here's a shot from Ryan Curley of Gunnar Stockton's helmet bouncing you can see it on the screen on YouTube. So Carson Beck, because there's a very important moment here in all of this. And this is something that Kirby talked about on Saturday, and he said, Sunday. When these SEC championship weekends are hard for me to wrap my head around. On Sunday, when we were talking to him, talking to Kirby, he said, I assumed that Gunnar would be able to stay in. Why did he assume it? Because it looked like targeting to the entire world. His helmet got knocked off. It was a vicious hit to the head, but Kirby didn't seem to be bothered by the fact that targeting was not called. All right. Gunnar secured the first down. Gunnar somehow did not fumble that ball. Again. And you can see it from Ryan's shot. This is an amazing image. This is why we work so hard on images at Dawg Post. I'll just turn the screen around for y'all on TikTok and screw that up. This is what, I don't know if you can see it, it's so hot, but if you can see on the screen there that Gunnar is laying literally on the ground. I mean, y'all, he was rocked. I mean, I thought he was in serious trouble when I was on the field. All right. Well, fast forward one play later, no targeting. Now, no fumble. You fumble and you lose the ball. That's the game. So here comes Kirby talking about how Georgia has got to get ready to get someone in. He says, I assumed Gunnar Stockton to be able to stay in. I realized we were going to have to take a snap with another quarterback, Kirby says. One of the offensive coaches said, and I don't know who it was, Carson can take a snap. That's not an issue. So we did that. Now, at that moment, Carson could not grip the ball the way he typically could. All right. So, I mean, here comes this guy rolling out here. He is going to give the ball to Trevor Etienne. And Trevor told us after the game, he said, it was a perfect handoff, the best handoff of my life. And to the offensive line's credit, they blocked in a substantial way. It was a one-play Willie right into the end zone. There was no back and forth, thank God, in overtime. Some of us were exhausted from the week before. And, it's just a situation where people that write books like me, you can get that at Red Zone, by the way. Our buddies at Red Zone on Clayton Street downtown in Athens. You can get Dogstruction. You can get Double Dogs, which is right here. You can pick those up downtown in Athens. If you've not gotten them yet, you're missing out. It's not too late to order them. But, that's the sort of stuff you write about in books. What was going through Carson's brain when he left the field? What was he thinking when he carried himself on the field? Why didn't Carson, this is the critical question, frankly, why didn't Carson change out of his outfit? Like, why didn't he take his pads off? He had ice on his shoulder and elbow. Why didn't Carson just, like, if he couldn't play, which he obviously could, but if he couldn't throw, why didn't he switch out? I think it's a great question. And I don't mean it in a nefarious way. I don't mean it in any way other than, what was Carson Beck thinking as he stood on the sideline, watched his team rally, and this guy was ready when his team needed him after he got knocked out of the game? Now think about that. That's not a common thing, y'all. That's not a thing that you just do. And I think kudos to Carson Beck, kudos to everybody getting him back in that game to get the handoff done. But right now, again, I'll repeat, Georgia's sending a message out to the reporters that cover the team. Beck suffered an elbow injury, a quote elbow injury. They're not saying specifically what it is. They are also not saying anything about surgery. They are saying very specifically, Carson Beck suffered an elbow injury during Saturday's SEC championship game. He and his family are exploring treatment options, and there is no current timetable on his return. Let's keep in mind the schedule. There is no schedule right now at Georgia. What I mean to say is there are no classes right now. They're completely free. If Carson Beck wanted to, get back and oh my gosh, I cannot believe I don't know the word suddenly here. If Carson wanted to rehab, oh my God, if Carson wanted to do rehab 20 hours a week, if he wanted to do any number of things, he wanted to go throw it for 20 hours a week, which obviously not going to be doing that. But there are no limitations on the situation. This does not talk about how he's out for the season. It very specifically says Brett Thorson's out for the season. It does not say he is playing in the Sugar Bowl. It does not say he is not playing in the Sugar Bowl. It does not mention any game after that. It doesn't mention anything, nothing. Now, there's a couple of other things to keep in mind. We will not have availability, the reporters or any media will not have availability for Georgia this week. We will not have it again until Monday. Talking about that would be the 16th. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's definitely nothing this week. I think we don't get Georgia again until the 21st or in 2 Mondays. So there's going to be a period of time here where we don't know what's going on, and think about this during like the holidays and the lead up to Christmas. It may be that Carson just stays in Athens for Christmas and says, I do not want to travel right now. That would eat into 2 days of, it's not that far to Jacksonville. It's 4 hours. I mean, he could just get a plane and go down there. But so that might not be the end of the world. But would he do treatment on Christmas and the Christmas Eve? For our family, Christmas Eve was a huge deal. So I don't know. But I think we know right now that Brett Thorson is having season-ending surgery. We don't know that about Carson Beck. We know that Georgia is saying that he and his family are exploring treatment options. That doesn't mean that he won't have to have surgery. It just means they are exploring treatment options. We know Georgia is saying there's no current timetable on his return. So there's a lot of stuff that we know and we do not know. And there are, some good reporters on this beat, but there are a lot of people that speculate a lot. I personally get, I even though I feel like I'm a very good reporter, with injuries, I get really jumpy about saying what is and what is not, because even if you're talking to people that are close to the player, they can over exaggerate what's going on. And you're talking about physicians being involved here. Carson Beck, Kirby Smart, and Ron Corson would be the people the most likely to know what's going on. And we'll just see how it goes. Now, what does this mean? Let me talk about this for a little bit. What do I expect? Let me put it to you like that. I completely expect that Gunnar Stockton will start for Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. If they don't win that game, then it's irrelevant. So that's what my expectation is. I don't think that Gunnar Stockton playing or being your starting quarterback prevents you from winning the national championship. There are no rules here. Gunnar Stockton showed against the number 2 team in the country at the time what he can do. And the answer to that was win the Southeastern Conference Championship from behind. He looked really good, generally speaking. I think he had a bad play. I think there were moments that he could have been better in terms of quarterbacking. Like, what I mean by that is management of time and so forth. And I say that, but the caveat to that is that Kirby took blame during for the interception because he was saying that I almost said Stetson again, that Stockton was getting the play call in too late. So let's just be frank here. He was put in a very tough, pivotal, pressure situation. He came up with the goods. What we don't know is what it would be like for Gunnar Stockton to be game planned against. What we don't know is what it's like for Georgia to game plan with Gunnar Stockton. We don't know what the ebbs and flows, the adjustments and counter adjustments of that will be. We do know that there was a reason why Carson Beck was and is the starting quarterback at Georgia. We do know there's a reason that Gunnar Stockton's the backup. We know that, and that doesn't mean that in a negative or positive way about Gunnar, by the way. That means it is a factual statement. We know that Gunnar Stockton has the ability to change plays with his feet, period. I covered Gunnar. The first game I watched Gunnar Stockton play was when he was in 10th grade at Rabin. And he understands completely how to play quarterback. That was obvious in high school. He has chilled out some of his razzle dazzle, which I think is necessary in the SEC. When he was going to Carolina, I thought he would be a really good player for South Carolina, but he would not be enough for South Carolina to get over the hump. They have an exceptional quarterback right now. It was not enough for them to get over the hump. Gunnar would have been in that situation. Sellers, the Carolina quarterback can run better than Gunnar, but Gunnar can really run well, and he does not have the speed of Stetson Bennett, but he brings back the read option, and that seemed to unlock. There were 3 things at once that happened in this game, and 2 of them didn't happen until the second half. Georgia's offensive line. The return of Trevor Etienne. I mean, what I saw on Saturday was what I was expecting the whole time, this entire season from that guy. It was DeAndre Swift, Sony Michel adjacent. It was like, boom, he hit a big play. So you got that. Secondly, you had a change at quarterback. And then third, and then 2 of these 3 happened in the second half. You had a change at quarterback, and you just had better offensive line play in the second half for Georgia. So all of those things combined led to an explosion in the run game. The passing game is not going to be the same as it is with Carson Beck, okay? So if Gunnar Stockton is your starter, if Gunnar Stockton is your starter moving forward, you cannot have these 17-point deficits and all this stuff. Carson Beck could just zoom you back to a win. I am skeptical that Gunnar Stockton can do that, okay? I'm just skeptical. I'm not saying he can't, but it's not the same. So I would be wary of that. Now, I think Georgia might have had 1 3 and out with Gunnar I'm going to look that up real quick, but it wasn't, you know, he played really well in that game. And I just, you know, for those of you who this might be the first time watching me, I love reading the drive charts. You know, Georgia had the ball 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 times total did they have it in the second half of the game, second half in overtime. 7 times total. They, with the exception, let's just call it 6 because one of these they knelt on the ball. All right. They did not have, they had 1 3 and out. That was it. I mean, the 3 and out was a 3 and out where it must not have been a 3. It was a 3 and out, but I think they got a first down because they got 21 yards. The other non-impressive possession was 3 plays, 3 yards, but it was an interception on that drive. So Gunner, here's what Gunner did in the second half. He went 10 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 3 plays, 21 yards, punt. 9 plays, 61 yards, field goal. 16 plays, 72 yards, field goal. 3 plays, interception, kneel on the ball. 6 plays, 25-yard touchdown. Man, now I'm going to just say this right now, and that is a lot of really good production and yield. That is a really good yield. That changed the game. He changed the game. I mean, at the beginning of the game, it was, and this ain't on Carson now. The offensive line played way better in the second half. The receivers didn't seem to drop the ball in the second half. That's on them. So 3 plays, 5 yards. 4 plays, 15 yards. 8 plays, 59 yards, field goal. 3 plays, 4 yards. 4 plays, 17 yards, which was the last play of the half. So they were kind of moving at the half at the end there, and then, you know, but Georgia just didn't have the ball in the second half, in the first half. In the second half, one drive alone was 9 minutes and 22 seconds. It was a 16-play drive. That's not common. That's like Army football. So I think Georgia may stay on schedule more with Gunner Stockton, but make no mistake about it. You've lost 2 of your best players, it appears. You've certainly lost one of them in Brett Thorson. Georgia's defense is going to have to play at its potential or higher from here on out, period, to win the national championship. Gunner Stockton is in a situation where, you know, he's won 1 game now. I'll give him that credit for that. Beck will get it on the score sheet, but I will let them split it. How about that? But the experience there going against the number 2 team in the country and perhaps a team you would see in a championship game if you get there, you know, that's not bad experience. And Gunner has played in, you know, not a lot of games. Carson Beck played in a lot of games getting ready for the 23 season. You know, Gunner's not had that fortune. So let's see what happens here. Make sure you're following us on all of our stuff. If you're watching this now, you didn't see it on here first. You missed our newsletter. Make sure you're signing up for our newsletter. And anyway, make sure you're following us on all the socials. But Carson Beck, repeating one last time, suffered a, quote, elbow injury during Saturday's SEC championship game. He and his family are exploring treatment options. There is no current timetable on his return. Punter Brett Thorson sustained a knee injury to his non-kicking leg on Saturday's contest and will require season-ending injury. Carson and Beck, quote, Carson and Beck are both fierce competitors and extremely hard workers. Kirby Smart said, I am confident they will attack their rehab with the same determination and exhibit in their daily habits. We will be here to support them every step of the way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.